Bring it in the sheep, bring it in the sheep. We shall come rejoicing, bring it in the sheep. That one, put that one out there for my siblings. They'll know why. Uh, before we get started, I just checked and I got some viewer mail. And look what an adoring viewer sent me. I don't know if this is meant as a present or if it's more of a would you please stop coughing into the microphone. But, I've never tried Mucinex before. I've tried, of course, what you got like Vicks and, geez, I forget the names of them, uh, cocaine, you know. But and there's no instructions here, so I assume just drink the whole bottle. Let me see. Oh, good. A child-proof cap. Oh, oh, no. There's a little symbol on top that just says, turn it that way. Turning it that way only does this. Usually you got to push them down or something, but, oh, wait, nope. Well, my adoring, well, wait, it seems to have come up. Oh, it had another little thing. So I think I'll try, just for the heck of it, instead of the whole thing, I'll just try this little plastic cap full there. And we'll see if by the end of this video I'm cured. I have no idea what this stuff tastes like. So, thumbs up. Not horrible, but it's not the sort of thing that like when you have like cherry cough syrup or something, you got to worry that kids will get into it because it tastes good. Any kid that tastes this, you're not going to have to worry about that. So anyway, today is Sunday where you are. So I thought, why not have a little Sunday religion discussion? And I just thought of that, like 2 minutes before turning the camera on. So I was thinking, there's a couple things I was thinking of talking about, and I thought, let's talk about religion. So I haven't, usually I'll think of things a little ahead of time, and I'll have ideas running through my head, and then a lot of them I'll forget, but at least I'll have some idea. But so here's my deal on religion. As many of you probably know, I'm a recovering Catholic. 12 years of catechism. 13 if you count, there was a year of like preschool there, where I think all we did was like have religious coloring books or something. But anyway, I I had communion, and oh my God, I forget what it's called when you're a teenager. I'll think of it right after I hit the stop button at the end of this, but I'm sure other Catholics out there will know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like the Catholic version of bar mitzvah, except you don't get the big party and presents. You just go and say, hello, God, here I am. I do remember it's kind of a big deal because we had to study for it. And the we actually had the bishop come in to do the ceremony or whatever, and he asked some questions first, and I was scared to death that he was actually going to point at me and ask a question because I was never much of a studier, especially in things I'm not interested in, and wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time sitting around studying the saints and all that stuff. But anyway, I almost thought of what it's called. But I went through that whole thing. But then after a while, I started thinking independently. I broke away from the wine and bread cult. And here's my basic thoughts on religion. Like one of the things I think that first started making me have second thoughts was we were taught, that God is all knowing, all powerful, omniscient, omnipresent. Um, I'm not sure what the omni for knowing is. Anyway, I do remember this Pax Vobiscum, people. Anyway, so you have this all powerful God who can do whatever he wants. It only takes him, 6 days to create a whole universe and all that stuff. And what does he do? He creates us in his own image. I mean, how full of yourself do you have to be to say, okay, we've got this great, powerful God, and he made us just like him. So things like that. And, there's just a lot of little things in the Bible that don't make sense. And I really have a problem with people who think the Bible, they'll have the King James Bible and it's word for word. That's exactly, the way God wrote it. And they don't think about the fact that most of that stuff, like you figure the Old Testament, a lot of that was just like verbal histories that was handed down for centuries because they wouldn't have had a lot of writing and stuff, and who was around to take notes during the flood and all that. And you had those kind of stories that people think are totally true, but I mean really, the whole earth was flooded, and then all of a sudden Noah, after 40 days, he found a piece of land and they could settle down. And I mean, the whole place is going to be mud and stuff. How are they going to get along? See, the stuff is no good. But things like that, and the there's other things too, like they talk about God being all loving and all forgiving, and at the same time they talk about God, destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, and those cities would have been full of children and babies. And he was like, but I'm mad at your parents. I'm just killing everybody. Um, and but then there's also the whole thing of the hypocrisy of people. And I know you all know what I'm talking about with that stuff. Now let me say this. I might be atheist, or sometimes I'll say agnostic, just because I'm willing to accept the fact that I might not be totally correct. But anyway, I I'll never be one of those people that mock Christians. You hear people make comments about like zombie Jesus or whatever, because I admire anybody who tries to be a good Christian. You know, whether there was actually a Jesus or not, the idea of him is a good one. A man of peace who wanted to help the poor and the sick and all that. So people who try their best to be like that, I totally admire them doing that. Trouble is, there's just so many out there who call themselves Christians and, you know, judge them by their actions, not by their words. Uh, but what else? I'll t- I know there was something else I was going to tell you about why my thought process, but I'll tell you something I've always enjoyed, and people who know me know I've said this before, is when I will get into a debate with people who consider themselves, theologians. I'm talking. I'm talking about these are the same kind of people that think they are scientists because they look something up on the internet. Well, you get these people who think they know all about religion because they go to some backwater church with some crazy preacher who tells them everything and they believe everything he says and they think they know all about their religion. I know, like, there was one time I was having this discussion with this lady, to use the term loosely, and I'm pretty sure it was all, I think it was when the Boy Scouts said they were going to start allowing gays to be scoutmasters. And she was like all upset about that, and that was going to ruin children. It was going to be bad for children. Meanwhile, her own kid was in and out of like juvie all the time. But she was an expert on raising children. But and the gays were going to ruin kids. And I forget how she just got off on like saying how they should not be allowed to do this and they should not that. I mean, she basically wanted like concentration camps for gays. And I said, you know, you'd get along really well in Iran. Meaning, that's the same way they feel about their religion with, being all strict and stuff. But, and she goes, I certainly would not. She said, I believe in God, the Father of Jesus, and they believe in the false God, Allah. And I was like, I very politely said, you stupid bitch. It's the same God. You get these people, they think they're religious experts and they don't know their own religion. You know, the God of the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims is all the same guy, just with different names. Yahweh, Jehovah. So I always like when I know more about people's religion than they do. There was another lady I know, and I like her mostly, but she also is someone who, because she's a good Christian, she thinks she knows everything in the Bible. And the one time we were having a discussion, it had to do with like with Muslims and all that. And I made the comment. I said, "Well, it all goes back to Isaac and Ishmael." And she goes, "Oh, Isaac and Ishmael, you're so funny." I thought, I did not make a joke. You want to go and maybe read your own Bible? Anyway, like I say, that always amuses me that you know the the atheist knows no more about their religion than they do, which is why I'll never get in an argument with a Hindu because all I know about them is they've got a god that has an elephant head, and I think one that has like 8 arms or something. I don't know, but well here, and I don't want to go on much longer. I know there's a lot more I could say about this, but I will mention one other thing for people. Is well, one thing I do also admire is people who choose their religion. Somebody who looks around and they'll see what everybody offers and they think, I most agree with the Catholics or I most agree with the Jews or whatever. And that leads up to my final point of so many people that are so convinced of their religion, and they think, oh, you cannot get into heaven unless you're a Christian, or even more specifically, unless you're a Methodist or a Catholic or whatever. The only reason they believe their religion is because that's the family they were born into. You know, their mother went to the Presbyterian church every Sunday, so they're Presbyterians. And they believe that is the thing to be. But the thing is, if they'd been born in Pakistan, then they'd be a total Muslim, you know? If they were born in India, they'd be, Hindi or Sikh or whatever. Or somewhere else, they'd be a Buddhist, It's, you know, just don't be so smug about your religion because most of you who believe in something, you only believe in it because that's what your parents told you you believed. Anyway, that's the Sunday sermon. I went a little longer than I wanted to and didn't say, I think, 10% of what I wanted to, but that's okay. Pax Vobiscum.